Good evening, everyone, and a happy World Water Day to all the water enthusiasts. On behalf of the Wednesdays for Water, an initiative of the W4W Foundation, a think tank instituted as a citizens collective, and the Climate Reality Project India, we welcome you to the World Water Day special session of the Wednesdays for Water on accelerating change for SDG6. Wednesdays for Water was instituted in April 2021 with the objective to engage in conversation with water experts, grassroots practitioners, policymakers, and youth to explore the complex intertwined issues associated with water and explore possible solutions. We have expanded since then to have more activities like the Friday Waters and the Monday Munching with Women for Water, besides organizing water workshops, water walk and talk, seminars, special courses and conference panels to continue the water conversation in various possible ways. Please visit our website w4w.in for more details. Coming to the theme for today's session, we have been committing to ensure access to water and sanitation for everyone since the beginning of this millennium. First through the MDGs, and since 2014 as part of the UN Sustainable Development Goal SDG6, also known as the 2030 Agenda. And we are exactly in the midway into our commitment. And even today, we have 771 million people who don't have access to clean water close to home, and about 1.7 billion people who don't have decent toilet of their own. In the race to close the gap, there are huge efforts from multiple organizations, but are these interventions reliable, sustainable, scalable, functional, and above all, equitable? Or are we adding numbers without bothering about any of these? Does having access to water is same as having access to safe water on tap? And let me tell you, only last evening, I got a very disturbing news about a student, a PhD student from Terry School of Advanced Studies. He did masters with us as well. He worked with me in multiple projects. And today he is on ventilator because he was diagnosed with typhoid. And that worsened, he got jaundice, and now his liver is completely damaged. So even in, and that I'm talking about an incident, one incident in Delhi, and there are millions of incidents like this that are happening around us. So what do? We install ROs in our houses, and then we end up wasting even more water than we are actually cleaning. Likewise, we build toilets, and we assume that making toilets is same as everybody is using them. But does it really convert into that? So there are many, many questions that are crossing my mind today, but we are fortunate to have three esteemed panelists today with us who have been doing amazing work in their specific spheres of influence. Mr. Aditya Pundir, Colonel Shashikant Dalvi, and Ms. Shubhi Kesharwani. Mr. Aditya Pundir is the country manager for the Climate Reality Project India and South Asia. Since 2010, he received his training from Vice President of US, Al Gore, in 2009 on climate change, and was selected for Australian Leadership Awards training 2013 in environment. He's active in community leadership, served as honorary warden for civil defense, and as an editor of an environmental website. He has co-authored 2 books on natural World Heritage Sites of UNESCO. A more detailed CV bio is there in the chat box for all of you to see. Our next panelist today is Colonel retired Sashikant Dalvi. He has served with the Indian Army from 1969 to 2002. As a young officer, he led troops in enemy territory in 1971 to liberate Bangladesh. He was also involved in cutting-edge technological achievements to enable defense machinery to operate at sub-zero temperatures at high altitudes. Post-retirement, he designed and implemented Pune city's first rooftop rainwater harvesting project in 2003 for his housing society. This resulted in a tanker-free water society with saved costs and improved water table in Viman Nagar. He has his own organization, Parjanya, and has been extensively working with communities, housing societies, schools, colleges, hospitals, industries. He's also a trained climate reality project leader, just like me. And in fact, on the occasion of World Water Day, he has also been given honored with Jal Prahari Award. So congratulations, sir. And again, we have a detailed bio in the chat box for everybody to view. And last panelist, but not the least, a very dynamic Shubhi is a problem solver at heart and is very passionate about natural resource conservation, focusing on design solutions to solve 360 problems 360 degrees with respect to financing, policy, governance, communication, and technology to preserve nature. Shubhi started Gurujal almost 4 years ago, which has been functioning as a special purpose vehicle to address the challenges of water security in Gurugram. Prior to Gurujal, she was working at the Chief Minister's Office of Haryana and Youth Alliance. She's also an alumna of Columbia University. And after she got back from there, she has been engaging with Niti Aayog on various programs. They have come up with a standard operating procedure for pond rejuvenation. And she's currently focusing on restoration financing aligned with ESG and carbon offsetting, along with further modulating of water security projects. On behalf of everyone present here, I would like to thank all the three panelists for taking our time and joining us today. And we begin the discussion. So since the theme for World Water Day is accelerating change, I would really like my panel members to reflect on why is there an urgency of accelerating change for SDG6 or clean water and sanitation for all. So I would first like to invite Colonel Dalvi. Colonel Dalvi, over to you. Your thoughts, please.
Thank you, Fawzia. Why accelerating? We are already late. Because the water shortage is faced, like you mentioned in your initial talk itself. And when I go to rural area or both in urban area like Maharashtra, there's a huge amount of crises in front of us. Now, understanding we keep accelerating this particular theme this year and let people understand, yes, how they are using the water, how they are managing their water and how they are consuming it. So though we have told them a number of times, government does some programs, there are policy letters, but on the ground, it doesn't happen much what we want to see. So furthermore, accelerating we are doing, that's all what I can say.
Thank you very much, Colonel, sir. I think that's really right that, while we are trying to say that a lot of policies are out there for providing access to water and sanitation to people, you have been working with grassroots community and you feel strongly that that's not happening there. And here we have Shubhi, who I would like to invite. She has been working with the government, for a while now, for the government as well. So Shubhi, what is your reflection on this? Why do you think there's an urgency for change?
I think I would want to start by saying, if not now, then when? So this is the question that I've been asking myself, and generally, I think it's high time. Like, if we look at it as a country from 75 years, more than 75 years of independence, I mean, the basics are not yet met, like access to safe drinking water. And like, ma'am, you were already mentioning about so many gaps in terms of supply, whether it is equitable, is it economical, to what end it is meeting. So just keeping all of that in mind, that, where we are trying to progress to, what is our destination and what is required to meet our destination is actually to start with something very basic as like air and water. So that's where I feel that it's really important, and now more so with the climate change and how it is connected with the entire concept of where we are transitioning to as a society.
Thank you, Shubhi. I think a very important point. If not now, then when? And let me tell you, you were born much later, but in the 70s and 60s, those of us who were born, and we used to drink water from tap. So it was nowhere as bad as we have made it. So it's primarily, the problem has been created by humans, and the solution should be also formulated by us. Each one of us, I think, have the responsibility. So again, over to Colonel Sir. Colonel Sir, I know I've visited some of your projects as well in Pune, and you have actually, what can I say, dedicated your life towards rainwater harvesting and how we can really conserve water, and how we can store them properly, and how we can make water accessible to one of, I would say, to the driest of the parts in Maharashtra. So I would like you to now tell us a little of your story, how it all started, what are you doing, and how do you think, people who have joined here can also perhaps contribute to that initiative. Colonel sir, you'll have to unmute yourself.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
No, I retired in 2002, Fawzia, and settled in a suburb known as Viman Nagar in Pune. Water starved in those days largely. We used to get about 80 liters per day per head against what we are supposed to get 135 liters. Obviously, we will all depend upon tanker water and the borewell water. So they made me a chairman of the society, and the biggest chunk of money was going to 25,000 rupees a month towards the tanker water. So I thought this is not going to happen. So what I decided, whatever I had little seen in the Rajasthan and the MP of the rainwater harvesting projects in their own houses, because in Maharashtra in those days, because of not very prominent, the water shortage was there. So I decided to implement on our own in my own society. And in 2003, we implemented and ensured that 12,000 square feet of our rooftop area is collecting about 9 lakh liters of rainwater every year. So what we did was channelize that water into our borewell, resulting in our tanker water stopped from that year onwards straight away. So seeing this result, I decided, why not spread the awareness? And then now, of course, it's a history. And like you asked me about this, especially, I'm not talking much about urban area, though I'm working. And I have worked a lot in the urban area in 7 different states. But I'm concentrating more on the rural areas these days. Because in the urban area, we have got money. Let us be frank, people buy tankers. In Pune itself, though the tanker costs anything between 1,500 to 3,000 rupees a tanker, people buy in plenty. Crores of return, almost 50 crores is spent last year on buying the tanker water in Pune alone. Rest of the country, I don't know. Now, what is happening in the in the rural area? Rural area, people are not getting water in summer months. As it is, by extracting, all of us who are here will know that the water extraction is very high as far as India is concerned. Almost 25% of the world, if we are expecting at that rate, no wonder that water table is going down. And only thing I personally feel is, and because I'm not talking about surface water, it is already polluted. We treat it as a dumping ground. So in the what is left with us is a groundwater table. And because of concretization or urbanization, the water table is reduced drastically. Because the percolation rate is almost from 35% down to Pune is about 6 to 7%. So that is the case. In that particular case, somehow, like every policy letter says, we at least do artificial recharging of the groundwater. So I decided if I can make my society tanker water free or Jalatmanirbhar, why not others? And that's how we started. And we are, because let me tell you one thing, we haven't understood the potential of the rainwater. You know, we say Pune receives 7,500 liters of water. I'm working in the water starved Marathwada. It receives about 660 millimeters of rainwater. Bombay receives about 2,500 millimeters of rainwater. What does it mean? It means on 1,000 square feet of catchment area, Mumbai receives 250,000 liters of water. Pune receives 75,000. And the Beed area receives about 66,000 liters of water. Are we using it? We are not. It is going west. So if we channelize it and allow it to channelize it into the groundwater table and allow it to raise the water, mind you, our old result, again I quote you, is in 2003 when we started off, our bore water table was about at 225 feet. And today it is at 60 feet.
Retired Colonel
Borewell yield was, in earlier, it was half an hour a day. And today it is 12 to 14 hours a day. This is sheer result of Mother Nature was helped to percolate. We were not allowed her to percolate. Now we can at least artificially do that and raise the groundwater table. So that is what we are doing. Otherwise, if you see from independence till date, the Pune population increased from 5 lakh to 60 lakh. Our natural water assets have remained same. Nothing much has changed. Same thing in India. The population increased from 36 crores during the independence. Now it is more than 140 crores. So obviously, if that is what is so, then that means about additional 1.5 billion liters of water every day, only for the domestic, our own needs. What about the agriculture? What about the industry? So that means unless until we, and only like Fawzia, you said, if we have created the problem, so we have to find the solution. Nobody else is going to come from anywhere to do it. And the obvious reason is we can find the solution. And I know myself, because I had done now on this day, that is today is the World Water Day. On 24th, we are dedicating the 100 villages of Bid district. In record time of 6-7 months, we did the rooftop rainwater harvesting projects on those villages, channelizing more than 26 crore liters of rooftop rainwater into their groundwater table. That means now imagine how much water every year it will be going. Otherwise, 900 tankers Bid district during summer months they run, supplying water to the population of the Bid district. Now, unless until we do this, otherwise we will be only spending money. I'm not only talking about money, and plus they do one way 25 to 30 kilometers. That means see the amount of carbon dioxide generated by those old diesel vehicles. So friends, unless and until we take it and understand, and it is everybody knows, there is a rooftop, and every building has got a borewell, because nowadays municipal corporations of every city, they don't allow you to use the PMC, that is municipal corporation water, but they are using the groundwater to construct the buildings. So there is a borewell there. So what we have to do is recharge. So I personally feel, unless until all of us together, we are working, plenty of people are working. I'm not the only one who is working in this particular field. But we were fortunate enough that organization like ICICI Bank, they gave almost 10 crore rupees. Otherwise, this 100 villages is not possible to, ensure that a huge project can be conducted. This is what it is. What I personally feel, Fawzia, is together on this World Water Day, we can definitely initiate these things and make sure I'm available to provide any ground level solutions, whosoever wants. This is based on my experience from 2003 to 2023. That's at the moment, that's all what I can say.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Colonel sir, for motivating all of us. I think your story always, whenever I listen to it, it's so inspiring, and congratulations on completing those 100 villages. It's an honor for all of us to have you here amongst us. And as you rightly said, that we are sort of, trying to, we have sort of polluted all our surface water. And now we have become more greedy. So we are now depleting our groundwater, assuming it's an unlimited resource. And today we are actually, like, more than 200 districts across India are actually in a critical situation. So with that critical or overexploited, what we can say, we are literally mining water from groundwater. And amidst that, what you are doing is commendable. Thank you very much. And Shubhi, you will have to give me some time, because I see Aditya has joined, and maybe I'll take him for the initial this thing and come back to you. Aditya, hi, welcome. And we will like you now to sort of reflect a little on why is there this urgency of change. But while you sort of talk about that, I would also like you to quickly reflect, what is Climate Reality Project doing? I know you're doing amazing work. All of us are doing, I perhaps am doing the least, but I know with Colonel Dalvi's work, and there's some work happening in Orissa. And then, of course, through your school program and many other programs, you're doing a lot of things. So quickly take us through what Climate Reality Project is doing with regard to making water accessible, affordable, available for everyone. Over to you, Aditya, and thank you very much for joining.
Thank you, Fawzia, for hosting me. Am I audible?
Yeah. Yes, yes.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So regarding you see, climate, 2 days back, again, the new IPCC report has come, which is a collection of all these reports. And I think, again, the dire warning is there that we are not on the right path. By 2030, we have to have the emissions down by 50%. And I think why we are doing all this is because climate change is intensifying the crisis of food, a crisis of water and health, and as I would say, infrastructure. Like, these 4 things are becoming critical. And the way we are seeing the impact on water of climate change is phenomenal. I'll just tell you, since last about a month and a half, I've been traveling extensively in India. First, I was in Maharashtra, where Colonel Dalvi's place. So I went around to interiors of Maharashtra and I saw the kind of problem they're facing. Then in the next part of my march, I was traveling up in the Uttarakhand hills. Again, the problem I'm seeing is so acute in Uttarakhand now. They had 60,000 sources of natural water, those springs and what you call those chota streams they had. They have 11,000 of them have dried up. And now the villages I met from different places, they were saying they are having extreme problem. Like, there were some villages which had come up because there was a water source. Now that water source has suddenly vanished. So because of the vanishing of the water source, now the villages don't know how to sustain themselves. Leaving alone agriculture is something more. They don't even have water for drinking sometimes in the summer months. So this is a crisis which we are seeing. If we are seeing this crisis happening up in the hills of Uttarakhand and Himachal, you can imagine what will happen downstream, because these rivers are all originating in those areas. And if the rivers are not well fed, and why the rivers are not having water is because of the deforestation and all those impacts which we are having. So not enough water is going into the aquifer. So these problems, what we are seeing now, is getting combined. One side, you have climate change, which is intensifying heat. You need more water. Glaciers are melting. Forest biodiversity covers are decreasing. So water discharging is not. So this all happening cyclically together. So what I'm seeing all over the country today is that I think we are going into a crisis situation in coming times if we are not able to have enough water, rainwater harvested. Like, one is, of course, what Colonel Dalvi does, doing it rooftop. But again, we are not seeing rain being harvested even in the hills, open hills of Uttarakhand and Himachal, because of deforestation, because the water simply flows away. Because for the water to get charged in a hill, you need a very good cover of trees and grass, so that water falls and goes inside the earth, which is the biggest aquifer actually, which is collecting water for rivers. So these type of problems we are seeing everywhere happening. So coming to some of the solutions Climate Reality is doing is that we're trying to advise people about all these aspects, because these problems cannot be solved by a simple solution that we'll do this activity or we'll do this implementation, it will get solved. These are all interconnected. The problem we are seeing today of water, SDG6, we are seeing these are interconnected problems. And if we don't solve the biodiversity challenge, we don't solve the other challenges, the water challenge is not going to solve in itself. So we are trying to advise people from the policy. We are trying to talk to people on the ground, like villages. This was an association of all the villages out there. So that this is the way you have to start conserving water. First of all, you have to respect water. Currently, what happens is water is something, it's a commons good, nobody's interested, but we have to start respecting water. We have to start conserving water, especially in those areas where the water has been plentiful in the past. Suddenly they realize now that the water is missing. So these areas we're trying to see if we can help. And through our education program, the Green Campus program, so out of the 5 pillars we have: energy, biodiversity, water, and waste and air quality. Water is one of the key things which we are working on, where, of course, from the infrastructure side, what we do in all the green campuses is we insist that they go for rainwater harvesting. rooftop rainfall harvesting is the first thing. And then, of course, even if they have a pond or something, they can do that type of rainwater harvesting as well. Plus, after we have created this infrastructure, what we are trying to do is trying to get the interactive exercises with the kids. Because the whole idea is that what happens in the schools is the rainwater harvesting and all these things you read in your books. You never see it happen. So afterwards, also when the person starts earning, a university student joins a job, becomes a businessman. The problem is, how does it happen? He's only read it in the book. So again, here we are trying to do is create an infrastructure, and people are doing projects on them. They're going physically checking out. These are the gutters. These are the gutters. These are the soak pits. Like all these things, they're checking out themselves. So they get that confidence. And this is how it happens. So we are trying to create that thing and also make them do exercises related to water when they're in the school or they're in the campus. Even in university, it doesn't matter. Like we had this exercise in Symbiosis a few years, about 2 months back. So this is how the climate reality is now trying to build awareness all over the South Asia region about what we can do in water. I'm sorry.
No. Thank you very much, Aditya. I think, again, a lot of things that you brought out, of course, the problem in Uttarakhand and the springs drying up. And there are millions of people who are dependent on the mountain-fed rivers. So if the springs are drying up, what happens to the water in these rivers and what happens to the people, availability of water? But a very good thing that you said that these problems these are not in isolation. They are interconnected problems which are there. So if we don't have water, then it's an issue of education, it's an issue of gender, it's an issue of livelihood, food security. And I think likewise, you said biodiversity. Biodiversity, I think, is a huge water repository. And if we don't have these forests or mountains or from where our aquifers used to get recharged, which of course you are in Delhi and you know how we have ruined Aravalli mountains. So we are sort of testimony to how we can really ruin our ecosystem and just extract everything out of it. So thank you for that. And I think great work again by Climate Reality Project India and South Asia. And now I'll move to Shubhi. Shubhi, we are having, while we are talking here, there's a UN water conference already happening in New York City, where we are talking about young leaders, how young people can contribute. And you are one amazing example. I know for the last few years, I think almost for the last 5 years that I know you, you have been driving a lot of change at the grassroots level. Of course, you were instrumental in setting up the Gurujal organization and a lot of projects and a dynamic team of young people. So it's not just about you, I would say. The whole team of Gurujal is young. So I would request you to share about the genesis of Gurujal from a political science background, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe you can correct me if I'm mistaken, to a water leader. How did this transformation happen and what's happening through Gurujal?
Thank you so much, ma'am, for asking that question. So I think the story began with me working with the government, trying to help solve the problems at the governance level, that, how we can figure out solutions which would affect the last mile people. And then as a part of processing the sort of complaints that the Chief Minister's Office of Haryana received, I realized that on behalf of the Jean district, where I was posted in the heartland of Haryana, the second highest number of complaints were that related to water. And that was really puzzling for me, because it is a state which is highly dependent on water because of the agrarian economy. And apart from that, so there were two types of complaints. One, there were flooding issues. So farmers would often reach out to the government to help them, dredge their farms and clear off, dewater their farms. And second season, they would request for tankers. And we all understand that electricity is highly subsidized. So, people could pump as much amount of water as possible. And then they were complaining that there isn't enough water. So despite the heavy network of canal there is in the state. So in this state, the story continued even when I moved to the headquarters and realized it's not just the story of one district, but plenty of them. And realized how strong an interconnection with the revenue is, because the government is spending hefty amounts of money just to bridge up this gap of draining out the water in one season and then supplying water through tankers in the other season. So government is facing, and that's a major struggle. And then I realized, okay, this is a nexus which is affecting governance. Now it has started affecting finances of the revenues and then going to different aspects. So working at the state headquarters, I realized, that policy is not really an issue. There were policies regarding rainwater harvesting system. There were policies regarding ponds, but not being followed well. So my question to the government was, what should we do to do it? But then it is something which is a last mile delivery issue, right? It's the enforcement flaw which came out, and hence the governance flaw. There isn't enough review and monitoring. When I was speaking to the district headquarters, I realized that people are not getting adequate support. They are not specialized into developing these systems, and hence the gap. So the idea was to have a team of dedicated young professionals working under the seasoned officers, and yet getting the public opinion, because public was highly being affected, and then came to Gurgaon, which was the worst affected out of all the districts of Haryana. Also because it becomes a center of all the news in the media. So all of this was happening, and then we created a special purpose vehicle because it had to be a three-sided faced entity. It was supposed to fulfill the demands of the people, and then be responsive to the government's needs and still perform. So doing all of that, and then we created an SPV, it's a special purpose vehicle, with the idea of only focusing towards water security of the district by strengthening the water governance. So that is why my background was with the governance, and then eventually landing to the technology, because once we started breaking down the water issue, we've realized, okay, there are some gaps in terms of policy as well. For an example, rainwater harvesting system is mandatory to have in Haryana. But what if somebody doesn't have it? There's no penalization policy. Also, there isn't a strong incentivization policy. In terms of technology, also, it's very confusing. Nobody knows, what design to be used. Yes, there are designs shared by the CGWB and different agencies of the government, but then which one fits my land the best is the question that nobody knew the answer to. And then the process of seeking approvals is a little tricky. So yes, we needed to strengthen the governance and then move to the technology issue where in terms of ponds, there were good number of ponds, but they were converted into wastewater ponds, like most of the rural areas where people have been dumping all their wastewater to the ponds. So again, I'm talking 4 years ago.
Excuse me, I would request all of you to please keep your mics on mute. Thank you.
So enough number of organizations weren't working on wastewater treatment technology. And then we invited all the people to pilot their technologies in Gurgaon so that we can do effective wastewater pond treatment. And now we are standing where 3 out of the 7 piloted technologies have been enlisted in there. So there was governance, there was financing issue. Financing again wasn't allocated as a part of Amrit Sarovar. Now there's certain amount of financing which is coming through the government for pond restoration per se, but not enough to solve the problems in the 772 districts of the country, not to rejuvenate the 600 ponds, which probably every district has somewhere around. And then there were issues related to communications. My community is not understanding my relationship as a community person. I do not have that relationship with my natural resources, which I used to have, be it the ponds or the bunny or the community forest, as we call it here. So the relationship had changed over time. People did not know, like they were not taking their animals for a bathing, or they were not offering prayers to water anymore. So they couldn't. So eventually the ponds, all these centers of recharge zones, be it the forest, local community forest, or be it the ponds, they were being neglected, and in turn either being sold off in places like Gurgaon for heavy sums of money for different purposes, commercial purposes, or were getting converted into dumping grounds. So that is why it was important to pull in all the expertise, which, all the young people were getting education. So we have a diverse team, which has civil engineers, architects, urban planners, water resources specialists, social workers, communication, governance, etc. Everybody to come in and see water as a systematic problem, to look at 360 degrees of water and say, okay, what can I do to change this narrative and discourse while keeping the government, community, and the corporates in line? Because corporates, again, talking about Gurgaon, corporates and the industrialists play a very strong role here. So just forward looking and integrating all of it to have like a integrated water management plan was the plan of action. And I personally get a lot of learning ever since being a part of the system. And the idea would be to strengthen further as a green sector also. Like Sir was earlier mentioning that we've not been able to, keep the forests alive. And Aravali is one of the projects that I've been working on, as a part of the Damdama. And with different, it's interesting how so many different people are interested. Like today itself in the morning, we had a volunteering drive and there was an overwhelming turnout of the people to, get their hands dirty and do something on the ground. There are kids who are eager to understand and learn what is there, how can they contribute. But like just creating that holding space for everybody is the motive that we're trying to pursue.
Thank you, Shubhi. I think what you said at the end, how do we get people to make their hands dirty? Huh? So till such time that you don't make people, make their hands dirty and they continue to live in ivory palaces, huh? They really don't know what's happening. You get water on tap in your house. You don't know from where your water is coming. You spoke about how community disconnect with the natural resources. And perhaps that happened because, we made everything accessible at the doorstep. So people didn't have to really step out and see and observe and walk and protect. And so the whole ownership, which was there, it completely got lost. And I think earlier, as Aditya was mentioning about springs, and how people really settled around places where there was availability for water. But today, when that water is being lost, I think it's a warning call for the cities as well, because these people are going to migrate to cities, and India is going to have more than 50% of the population living in cities very soon. And cities are already hard-pressed for water, hard-pressed for resources. How are we going to really look at that? So maybe thanks, Shubhi, for that, and thanks for the good work. So I will quickly go to Colonel Sir. Colonel Sir, you have been doing, again, a lot of work with the community. So obviously nothing is bereft of challenges. So I'm sure you must have come across a lot of challenges working with the community. What are those and how do you deal with them?
As far as the community challenges are concerned, working on a ground, yes, the urban area, there are a lot of challenges compared to rural area because of the needs. In the urban area, what happens is people are not immediately, everyone says, "Ki sir, mere paas time nahi hai. There is no time available to me." Even at the society level or community level, they say, "You want water shortage is there, get the tanker, we'll pay for that. Worst come worst, take a sanction and we can take a boat." So this is a solution to it. They haven't understood that water won't be available. Even groundwater won't be available. So we have to first, obviously, we have to start with spreading awareness. What is the importance of that? But whereas if you come to the rural area, they don't have a money. That means they totally depend upon the government. Like I mentioned to you, in the Bid district, if they are spending 900 money on a 900 tankers a day during the summer months, it is an issue to be thought about it. So they understand we have to do. But like what Aditya said, this deforestation, even in the villages you find that the tree. So this time, with the help of one of our climate ready leader, Raj Mohan, we have planted 225,000 fruit trees in these 100 villages. Each village taking about 2,200 to 2,500 different fruit trees, whatever they wanted. We supplied them. Hope they maintain that. So this is a beginning of that. That means, again, what comes is, in one side, there is a huge need of water. They are willing to work on the ground, whether it's ponds, cleanliness of the natural water resources, or creating CCTs, they are willing to do that. Whereas if you come to the urban area, they say, "Mere paas time nahi hai. Money you want, I'll give you money. Who is going to work for that? That is your pay." So then we go to schools and colleges, like what Aditya again mentioned, or the other girl mentioned. Like, yes, we are taking the youngsters. You are getting the youngsters for your Walk for the Water program or Wednesday for the Water program. But how much they also give a time? We can motivate them. they can understand, yes, there is a need of water. And it is their life at stake, not my parents. The parents are busy earning the money. I don't blame them. That is what the situation today is. So what we have to do, we have to find a balance and ensure that then we go to the offices, encourage them to be, at least for your own building, how are you going to conserve water? Visit their toilets, see the leakages there. Tell them how you are supplying the water. You are giving full glass of water to any host who is coming there, any guest who is coming there. No, minor things, but then there are problems. People know it is what it is. But मिस बोलते हैं ना कि भाई ऑन द ग्राउंड नहीं होता है. वो सुनेगा, वेबिनार अटेंड करेगा, सेमिनार अटेंड करेगा, everything is very fine. He will be attending or conducting the seminar like Fawzia is doing, but on the ground he won't be. He may not be doing it. He may not be following those techniques so that he can become a leader. He can lead from front. So this is, but then we have to find out the way. Not that we cannot find out, but we how. Because at least I know on the ground we have made the changes. Definitely.
Right, Colonel. Sir. I think you are absolutely right. You know, attending webinars, of course, is very good, but how do we really get people, motivate people to translate that into action on ground? And over to you, Aditya. What are the challenges that you see? Why are we not able to, you know, a country which traditionally had all the spiritual connect with the water, you know, we worshipped water. How all this change happened, and why? How come, you know, we have come to a stage? And what are the challenges when we are looking at reversing this whole process? So, Aditya, your thoughts, please. You may unmute yourself, please. Yeah, we can hear you now.
Fawzia, what has happened actually is, let's just look at this is the question. Okay, I'll have my thing. Why the problem is there, but thing is that the reason what you asked for. One of the fundamental reason, I have been talking to a lot of people on the ground, especially people who are traditional rainwater harvesters and who have been looking after water resources. The problem started, especially when the British India came, and what they did was they made a boundary line around all villages that this is your area and the rest belongs to us. So, the community, the way of looking at water resources, the community's way of looking at biodiversity, everything changed over the time. So over the last 150, 200 years of rule, which British had, and then of course the government of India also didn't make any changes. So the thing is, the people have lost that touch of that ownership. Now, only thing inside my village or probably in my property is mine. Everything else is government of India to take care of. So I think that connect, which we have, everybody's been talking about, that has been lost. So that is, of course, that is the fundamental reason why today, like a country which was so known for its water tankas, and we've been known for all the johars and everything, and suddenly we are realizing that our groundwater levels are going down. So coming to, I personally feel regarding the challenges on the ground, I think challenge I feel is lack of people who can give a solution. Like I'm telling you out of my personal experience that since we have our green campuses distributed all over the country, so we try to connect them to water professionals who can help them in doing rainwater harvesting and implementing different water solutions. The problem is there are just not enough people who understand the whole thing. They're not enough, like, for example, plumbers who understand the way of fitting of rainwater harvesting. There are not enough people who don't know how to do rainwater harvesting other than other types of rainwater harvesting or water management. So the lack of, I think there's an acute need of trained professionals. We need more professionals, people who understand the water business and can help the community. So that's one thing I feel. The second thing I feel is a lack of finances, because what's also happening at a lot of places is the money is missing, whether it is on the ground, whether you want to make a large structure, the money doesn't come. When it comes in its own, with its own problems. And second thing is, again, like drip water irrigation would save us so much of water in agriculture. How do you change the mindset, and how do you get the money for drip irrigation? Because that's an expensive activity. As far as putting in the pipes, etc. are concerned, only probably big farmers can afford it. Small farmers can't do it. So I think, again, most of our farmers, because see, most of the water is being used in agriculture. And if we can make some sort of a difference out there, that will make a huge difference to the impact on the total amount of water available with us. There, the problem we are facing is the villagers, even who want to work in agriculture, want to move to drip irrigation and all, enough finances are not available for them, especially in the private sector. You have government schemes, all right, but then everybody is not able to use those schemes which are available. So I think availability of finances, availability of the solutions at the ground, at the grassroots level would really help in future in case if we move forward with this type of water management. And of course, availability of skilled people.
Yeah, thanks, Aditya. Great points. I think, yes, you're absolutely right that since one size doesn't fit all, as Shubhi was also mentioning about, we need people who have the right kind of expertise to really guide people. And the second one, of course, availability of finance. And wherever there is availability of finance, also, I think it's important that how it's used judiciously and how, sometimes finances come, but they are more for optics than for real implementation. So how can we really get them to be implemented right? And the third one, of course, that you spoke about changing mindsets. And agriculture in itself is a huge topic, so I will not talk much about it, but we can have a separate discussion on that. But I also love the comment that Sunil has put it in the chat box, is sometimes the crisis created crisis to promote mafias like tanker mafias. Great point. I think that's there in the chat box by Sunil. Over to you, Shubhi. You have been working in Gurgaon pond rejuvenation program, but other than that, you have also know that there are a lot of high-rise buildings in Gurgaon which are there, which was supposed to have a functional rainwater harvesting system, otherwise as part of the building bylaw. So it's about the bylaws that I'm talking about. But despite that, a lot of them, don't have functional rainwater harvesting. And some of them who have functional rainwater harvesting also, to my knowledge in India, a lot of people, the outlet, they just put it in the sewer line or in the stormwater drain. So that is such a pity that, a precious water resource, you are just putting it down the drain. So what are the challenges that you are seeing it in your area of work?
Challenges are many and very, but I think to begin with, I would say the lack of intention, because it's not a sense of do or die. We are not prioritizing. The moment we start hearing about it enough, we start talking about it enough, it will get to our nerves and then we'll start acting. I think it's all demand and supply. As much as when the demand increases, so will be the supply, and vice versa. So that is the idea. And as you rightly mentioned, all the build group housing societies and all the fancy apartments which are coming up do not have proper provisions. And even if they have, the people living in those areas have no idea how to use it. So one is having an infrastructure, another is understanding, how to use that infrastructure to the best. So that's the gap. So often, like, we with the district administration of Gurgaon, so we have conducted a couple of enforcement drives with the idea to sense, where is the lacking in. Out of the 60 rainwater harvesting systems or the societies that we visited, we found like almost 50 of them either did not have or did not have a functional rainwater harvesting system. The administration ended up sending out notices to all, but so what? There isn't a penalization policy. There's so much that somebody can do by the laws, right? So as much as it is important to make it mandatory to have a system, it is even more important to penalize it so that you set the right example and, people are forced to correct their measures. But unless that happens, I do not see that moving, apart from definitely the lack of technology and dumbifying of the entire process. I mean, we know if we have to buy a product, we just watch the TV and in an advertisement, we see something, right? We know, okay, this is the right product because, for an example, if you're talking about sunscreen, they know that, SPF 30 is a thing that you have to look forward to. I don't know what to look forward to if I see as a layman. So this is one of the most common feedbacks that I've received, that, if I'm thinking about the right rainwater harvesting system, I'm not sure which one to go forward to, because I also understand the pollution of aquifer is a issue and I want to do it right if I'm doing it. So it's important to have the right tools, right set of people, and the right processes so that we make the entire process so dummified so that it's easy to be consumed, right? Ready, because it's the 2-minute world. It's so globalized. Everybody's really fast pacing. People are ready to put in the money, but not really their time, right? So just everything has to be so easy and accessible so that it can be consumed really quick. I feel that is one
Yeah,
thing very important. And it's still a very technical and a niche sector. So we really, enough number of people need to pull their sleeves up and walk and say, yes, this is important. This is material to us.
yes, Shubhi, I think very rightly said. It's a 2-minute world. Nobody has time. And, nobody has time to sit and do literature review and find out which is the best technology for me. And then after you have found out what is the technology, where it is available, who will do it for me. And this whole process, they find it's so overwhelming that people just give up. Even the couple of them who wish to do it, and they're very few, but as you rightly also said, that there is a complete lack of intent. And I would also add that there is no incentivization. People feel that whether we install a rainwater harvesting or we don't. For instance, Delhi government said that you install a rainwater harvesting and we'll give you 50% reduction in your bill. But in Delhi, most of us, because 20,000 liters of water is free per month, our bills are already zero. So where is the incentivization? So how can you even formulate policies which cannot be even implemented? And wherever you're looking at it also, like suppose a person gets a 200 rupee bill for water, why should that person be even bothered about that 100 rupees? So how we can change mindsets, I think how we can really get people to the forefront. Water, unlike energy, I would say requires a different approach, because energy can be priced the way it is priced, but can we also price water the way that it starts to pinch people to conserve? So a lot of questions therein, and I think it's already 13, it's already like going to be 6 o'clock. So I'll open up for questions as well. Any quick thoughts in case anybody has? So there's already a question that I see in the chat box coming up. How do we convince people of rainwater harvesting? Because it doesn't help for the rest of 7 to 8 months. So there is a question around that. Colonel Sir, would you like to take that question, please?
This question, Fawzia, a number of times I have heard. But then this is not only because he has to understand the whosoever society or whosoever person is saying, so it's only for 3 months or 4 months during summer months. But why the problem has come? It is two things. Either he is not getting supply from his corporation or the supplying agency, or number 2 is his borewell is dried up and he has to pay for the tanker. But that borewell is dried up because his water table is going down. Whenever doing that, because the rains don't fall for throughout the year, that means they fall for during the rainy season only. So if you catch that, you can't wait, sir, summer months mein dekhenge, I will do the rainwater harvesting. It's not possible. That is where to do. That is creating, your storage for the use whenever it is required, basically. But there is one point of which I want to add for you quickly, is listening to Shubhi and Aditya is, which I always say is, there is no training, proper training. The plumber is trained in industrial, IITs, Indian instructor, the Indian training, जो IITs होते हैं गाँव में, वहाँ that plumber course is there, but then you will not find a course being run on rainwater harvesting. So if you are understanding, you train them, they won't know. Even if you go to your municipal corporation, Delhi Municipal Corporation, or wherever you are, and you ask them, what is your policy on the rainwater harvesting, which are different systems of rainwater harvesting, which can be implemented, what are the components required, who can assure that if I have implemented one rainwater harvesting in our society, who is going to certify that it is correct, and how to use it properly? Because Shubhi also said people feel it is complicated. And if you tell them how it is, definitely people will, it's not that rocket technology not to understand. But then these things are missing. There is no literature available. There are not tools available. Let me tell you one small thing. I have solved the problem of a lady professor from Nandurbar, which is from Pune, quite far off. On telephone, I used to instruct her every evening here on plumber how to carry out the rooftop rainwater harvesting in a small Bangalore. And within 7 days, Fawzia, she implemented that, because I was busy not to go there. That means it is clear that if you can spread the word of awareness and create the skilled labor available wherever, all over throughout the India, you will find his solution coming fast. Today, it is not so. You and me call a plumber, tell him, like Aditya said, they don't know how to fit it, where is the filter available, who is going to clean it, how to clean it. So there are these problems. If you don't solve it, then I don't think
Yeah,
we are
you're right. Our institutes are more, they are machines to just bring out people without really providing them hands-on understanding and exposure. And that's the reason, when they come out to work, they aren't as employable. So I'll quickly move to Aditya. And maybe, I would request you to reflect on what Sunil has put in the chat box, because he says that in cities, we pay very less for water because, we get it from a proper place, like proper utility, and the utilities don't charge us. So the people who can afford the most pay the least. And in rural areas or in slums, even in cities and slums, people end up paying more. How do you think we need to really look at pricing when it comes to water?
Yeah, definitely, Fawzia, pricing of water is a very critical facility. But you see, the problem is that water is highly subsidized. Like, for example, if we take the the cost of water, like pumping the water, getting it, cleaning it, and then supplying it, and if we put all the water, that will be quite, the cost could be quite high. It's most of the the governments of the world, I would say, they generally subsidize water very heavily because it's a social good. It's not only a now, of course, the people in cities, why have this advantage is because it's easy to put this infrastructure in a dense environment. Like when you're designing a city, it's so easy to do the pipe work, and there's so many people, like density is much higher. But when we go to a village area, if you want the same type of infrastructure to be spread out, it has to be very spread out because villages are generally spread out and the number of people are less. So therefore, what happens is the per capita cost goes very high. And then again, as you know, that it's all about, like, wherever you have a concentration of voters, if you'll have users, so there, of course, all the money flows in towards the cities. And this is also a trend globally. I think I wouldn't say it's something very bad also about it, because if you see how the world is moving, in 2005, we had 50% of the world living in cities. And even in India, by 2040-45, we will have more than 70% living in cities. So I think it's a good idea to actually focus on cities, how they're using water, and optimize their usage and minimize their wastage. So that is where we can really get some very good results. And in case if we save there, that money, of course, could be used for giving for people in the rural area, of course, could be looked after. But I think the challenge today is of optimization will be in the cities itself. Cities are the crucial area where we have to work on.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think there's a question, Shubhi, in the chat box, which I see on the impact that rainwater harvesting can have. Not just groundwater recharge. Is there any other impact that you think the rainwater harvesting can have? So maybe Shubhi, and then Colonel Dalvi, I'll come to you after that. Yeah.
Definitely. Apart from the groundwater recharge, I think dilution of minerals is a very tangible impact, and which is very rightly visible. It has been calculated, and also a lot of studies have been published about that. I think, ma'am, we were doing a study in Sona, and we figured out that there is a lot of salinity in a lot of areas, and rainwater harvesting systems really help there, making it more portable and increasing the accessibility to safer limits, water with safer limits.
So thanks, Shubhi, for that. And Colonel Dalvi, there is another question for you. So if you want to just revert or add something to that, or there is a question from Neeta about your 100 villages in Beed district and what were the challenges you faced. And since we are running out of time, we may try to wind it up also quickly.
Impact, I will consider both social and environmental impact. Because once I started visiting rural area, Fawzia, the problems are too many. Because the women folk go and fetch the water during summer months. We keep seeing the pictures. Though the tanker comes, they supply only 80 liters. At least I'm talking about a beat because I can quote the examples. They get 80 liters per day per household. They're supposed to get 65 liters per day per person. Now imagine if there are 5 people or 10 people or 2 people in the house, that means rest of the water they have to fetch from somewhere. So if you ask those ladies which I interviewed them, they say कि साहब पीठ दर्द करती है, कंधे दर्द करते हैं, everything pain. There is a lot of trouble they are going through. As the girl, they don't send the children don't go to, particularly the girls don't go to school in the summer months. Why? Why? Because the toilets are dirty. There is no water in the toilets. So they said they can't pass the urine, so there is a urinary tract infection. So parents say it's better to be she be at home and she can study from. These are the practical and the another thing which is very vital is from the social point of view is लड़कियां नहीं मिलती लड़कियों को शादी करने के लिए. When I asked them क्यों, बोलते साहब वो बोलते कि अगर हमारी लड़की आपके गांव में दे दी तो वो तो आपको उसको पानी लाने के लिए भेजोगे, उसके सेहत का क्या होगा. Just imagine the impact. It is a fact. So when we do it, when we carried out the first village which Aditya had visited in 2018, that particular village now is totally tanker water. You see you speak to those ladies, but साहब पिछले 3 साल से पानी नहीं लेने जाते, बच्चे स्कूल जाते हैं, so means throughout the year whenever the school is there. This is a major impact, absolutely major impact. Otherwise, yeah, as far as the environmental impact is there, yes, the moisture content in the soil has increased wherever we have done this these projects. Secondly, people are now planting the trees. Earlier they used to say, how can we plant the trees if we can't give the water? We are not getting the water. How can we give it to them? I will stop it here, Fawzia, because
thank you. I know this is a long topic that we can just continue. But thank you very much. I think we are completely running out of time. It's already more than 6 o'clock, and Colonel Sir also has another meeting to attend. I know he has already forewarned me about it. So thank you very much, and thanks everyone for joining. Thank you, Aditya. Thank you, Colonel Sir. Thank you, Shubhi, for this amazing conversation today. I think we need to really come together and work on it. Thank you all the participants for joining us today. I know we have some great experts, water experts also who have joined us, but there are experts from another field as well who have joined. Thank you, team member Mansi, Bibhu, Ganesh, Monica, and Monami, and everybody else, from the Wednesdays for Water team who have joined us today and who keep at the background helping us out in implementing this webinar every Wednesday. On Friday again, we have a discussion on Ab Kahwab. And if you are free and available at 5 p.m., do join us. Do follow us on our social media, and you will be able to get to know about different activities that we keep doing. Thank you very much. And thanks a lot. Once again, a very happy World Water Day, and have a nice evening. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.